She was left with this other called grandmother, that was a pissy drunk, and even worse than the boy she called her son. She would have a lot of other drunk people there. Patty could remember this other grandmother always saying, "You don't look anything like us. I don't know where you came from. Hell, we just heard about you when you were 2 years old. I don't think you're my son's daughter." This drunk lady would wake Patty up early in the morning and give me a bowl of cereal and tell her she had to stay outside until it was time to eat dinner. No lunch. Patty said she felt helpless. She just wanted to go home to the home she knew and received love from with her grandparents. This shit went on with them taking me over there and dropping me off until I was about 8 years old. I hated her drunk ass and her son too. Patty's mother has the baby, and when I tell you this was her mother's favorite child, it showed. Even though that child looked just like the drunk-ass grandmother from SCDC, she was never dropped off and had to stay with anyone. She kept that little bitch very close and sheltered. If she could take her to work with her, she would have. Now that she had the baby, her ass-whippings resumed. Patty said that she would go into her room and wrap herself in her blanket to feel protected, and when she would hear his footsteps walking near her bedroom door, she would stare at the floor with her heart beating out of her chest, thinking that she's next. The third ass-whipping Patty gets she's 6 years old, and these 2 horrible ass-parents of hers left her alone with that baby that mother had. It's October because they're showing these creepy commercials on TV trying to sell Halloween candy. It's scarring the shit out of her. Now the baby is crying and won't stop. She doesn't know what to do, so she called her grandparents. They called a close friend of the family to pick her and the baby up. By the time the close friend of the family gets to the apartment, in walks her father. As the close friend of the family began to leave, in walks her mother. Now Patty can hear the close friend of the family telling her mother, "Why, he's there and you would think that things would turn out okay." But no, this bitch allowed this man to strip her daughter naked and beat her with a belt buckle, until she came to the bedroom door and said that's enough. This beating warranted stitches, but she never got them. She was beaten with a belt buckle, and it ripped through her skin near her vagina and her knee. Her mother told her that if your grandmother asked what happened to you, because she's walking very different, she is bleeding and in pain, tell her that you fell down the steps. I hate this bitch and her man. Patty said that she was happy that her mother was no longer pregnant, because now her so-called father could focus on whipping her mother's ass, since she seems to like it, and his baby that looks like his mother, that lives in SCDC. So she wished, but it was not the case. Patty's next ass-whipping happened a few months later. It was a heavy snowstorm. Keep in mind Patty is 6 years old. Her father gave her a car key and told her to go to his car, open the door with the key, put the key in the ignition and turn it on. Her mother helped her to put on her snowsuit and gloves. She put the key in the center of the glove and off Patty went. She made it all the way to the car and opened her hand and the key was gone. She just knew she was going to get beat. She went back into the house crying and said, "I don't know where the key went." Out of nowhere her father slapped her so hard she flew a few feet. The mother watched. Thank God for the padding inside of the snowsuit, because that would have definitely been another injury. She was ordered to go back outside and look for the key and not to come back until it was found. After being outside for what seemed like hours, hands frozen and feet throbbing from frost bites, she was ordered to go to her room and to not come out unless she had to use the bathroom. She suffered a busted lip and a knot on her head. The next day Patty decided to write her mother a letter letting her know that she should not have gotten into any trouble for the key since he had an extra one, and how she was getting tired of being beat. She ended the letter saying, "Please don't tell him." Patty put the letter she wrote on her mother's side of the bed where she could find it. When she heard them waking up in the early afternoon, Patty could hear her mother throwing her under the bus and telling her father about the letter. He came in the room and said, "You don't think you should get an ass whipped." Patty just stood there in silence, trying to get her thoughts together, wondering why this so-called mother would do that to her. He said, "Take off your shit. Imma beat your ass." Here we go, another ass whipping. This one was so bad that she felt like she was going to pass out. She was a child. When he finished, Patty was left with knots on her head, thick whips all over her body. I hate that bitch and her man too. Like and subscribe for part #3.